folks, welcome you all to yet another podcast of mine. Another Friday has caught up with us, people. Yes, it has. I've had a good week, to be fair. I've managed to crack on with quite a bit at work, and I finally got a lot of connectivity back at work, which has allowed me to crack on with things that I would normally do. And for a number of reasons, I lost my connectivity, and there was all sorts of madness going on over the last number of weeks. But we're finally getting back to where we were, and it's been a really, really good week work-wise. Gym and running have been getting going again, so I've had a really good time with that. And I'm not going to rattle on about any of that, people, because we have so much to talk about in the world of gaming, and exciting things are starting to happen with new gen, people. Can I just say this before we get going? Flaggins up to you all. It is Flaggins Up Friday, after all. Oh, that's nice, people. That is nice. Right, well, what I'll do is, much like we did in the last podcast, we didn't have a podcast last week because there wasn't much for me to talk about, to be fair. And there wasn't much that sort of crept out of the gaming world that was making me want to sit and talk about it. So I thought, well, I might as well leave it, because I knew I don't want to make podcasts for the sake of making podcasts. I think it's a bit of a waste of my time and a waste of your time. So I'm only going to make content I think people want to hear me talk about. And I knew that I had Kingdoms of Amalur Re-Reckoning arriving on Tuesday morning via the postman, because I still do physical copies, people. So I knew that I was going to be doing some Let's Play on that for you, which is up on the channel now, 3 parts. You can go and watch that after you've watched this, if you didn't know they were there. So I knew that was coming in the week anyway, so I didn't feel any great necessity to be throwing up a podcast just for the sake of throwing up a podcast. So that's why we didn't have one last week. But much like we did in the podcast 10, this is podcast 11, I'm going to run through the itinerary of what we're going to talk about. That's a posh word, isn't it? Itinerary, people. Word of the day. Spell it, if you can. So, here we go. This is what we've got to talk about. I'm going to give you, first off, I'm going to give you my breakdown and thoughts on my experience of playing Kingdoms of Amalur Re-Reckoning. Everyone knows how much I love the original. Everyone knows how much I loved the back and pat version of that game, because it is so gorgeous. So we're going to have a good chinwag about all of that. Then we're going to crack on to the big one, people, which is the Xbox Series X and Xbox Series S launch news, people. We finally know when when they're both coming, both of these consoles, what the prices are if you want to buy them outright, other options for buying them, Xbox Game Pass extra news, there's Ultimate news, there's all sorts of stuff to be talking about there, so we're going to crack on with that. We're then going to talk about a few things. I've picked the cherries off the cake, as it were, with the Ubisoft, what was it called? Ubisoft Forward, something like that. Sort of their announcement of things that they're on with. So I've picked a couple of things out of there I want to talk about. One of them being Prince of Persia Sands of Time. The other being Immortals Fenyx Rysing, which used to be called Immortals Gods and something. But they've changed the name of it. And we're going to have another chat about Black Myth Wukong, which we talked about in... There wasn't the last one, was it? I think it might have been 2 back. Might have been the last one, actually. Anyway, we're going to talk about it again, because IGN, big shout out to them, because they got an interview with the developer that's making the game and got a whole chunk of new news on what's happening with the game, when we're going to see it, what they're expecting the game to be, gameplay lengthwise, all that sort of stuff. So we're going to crack on with a bit of that at the end and just talk. Well, I'm going to read through the interview key parts of that, basically. So there you go. So that's what we've got on for this week. So let's kick off then, shall we, with my thoughts on Kingdoms of Amalur Re-Reckoning. And I was really looking forward to this. And it's also worth noting, and for anyone that doesn't know, and I'm sure everybody does by now, but the people that made Kingdoms of Amalur Reckoning, which was Big Huge Games, excuse me, blimey, people. That's very professional, isn't it? You know what I mean? Having wind on camera. I don't know. It's all down to earth here, people. Look, I put a scented candle on you for you today. Look at that. It's all very, it's all very natural and authentic, my podcast. Yeah, so anyone that doesn't know, the company that made the game, Big Huge Games and blah, I'm forgetting the next part of that. But anyway, that company went bust very, very shortly after the game came out. Not through the game not doing well enough. It was just through the fact that the company was severely mismanaged. And, money-wise, it was just a nightmare, and they basically just went into administration not long after the game came out. I don't think selling twice the amount of games would have saved that company the way that it was sorted, run in the first place. So the remaster that we're getting now is, and it is a remaster, not a remake, is from a company who bought the rights to it, THQ. Yeah, it was THQ, wasn't it? And they purchased the rights, I think, last year. Because it's not been long since they purchased the rights and this remaster's come out. So they have pretty much tried to cash in on having the license to this straight away. We don't have any news of them actually making a new one. But, they've cashed in straight away, getting a remaster up for this gen. Because it's a 360 game, remember. And, fair play to them. You bought the rights, you've spent the money. So you want to make a quick cash in while you're thinking about what you're doing with the follow-up. And that's fine. I'm more than happy to pay that to get a 1080p or 4K 60 frames per second version of a game that, was 720p 30 frames per second when it first came out. Absolutely fine. I don't have a problem with that whatsoever. So, and especially on a game that I adore as much as that. So, I was really looking forward to it coming through, put it in. I mean, playing through the entire first section, well, that's not even true. I got halfway through the first section, which is where you wake up and you pick your character's name and all that malarkey. And, you don't even get out into the outside world at that point. But, okay, so in that first section, let's say half of that first section was just gorgeous. Like, I absolutely loved it. 1080p, it felt like 60 frames per second. I'm pretty sure it must be. And it was all great. And then you got to there's a bit in it where it kind of puts spider webs and spiders in it, and all of a sudden, after I'd fought them in the middle of fighting the spiders, can't remember, I just started seeing screen tearing across the sort of third the way down the screen where the webs were, and some sort of misty bits and stuff. And I thought, oh, here we go. Because if you're going to get it that early in a game, you're going to get a lot of it, or you're going to get bits of it all the way through the game, because it means that they haven't. They can't be bothered fixing it, basically. They've effectively said, well, it is what it is, and it's there. We've upped the ante to 1080p, 60 frames per second, or whatever it is. It might actually be 4K they've pushed for. I'm not actually sure, but it's better than the 720p of the original. So anyway, everyone knows my bugbears with screen tearing. I honestly and genuinely feel like it's lazy development. It's like, well, we wanted the high graphical fidelity, and if that means the screen tears, then we don't care. And it's like, well, if you can't make the whole game play smoothly with a clear picture without things going wonky all over the screen, then cut the fidelity down. Like, we don't need that graphical fidelity. Like, I'd rather have a smooth play and just cut it back slightly than have that mess on the screen. Anyway, I'm not gonna harp on too madly about it, because it isn't rife. It's not, it is literally, it'll be playing away for ages, and then you'll just suddenly see some tearing, and then it'll go away, and you'll crack on, and you won't see it for a bit. So it's not like it's just every time you turn around, and so I'll give them that. It's fine. And I've seen games that suffer from screen tearing that just do it every time you swing the camera around, irrelevant of where you are. So, it's okay. I'll see. I'm only in the early stages of the game. It's only like 3.5 hours in. So, and it's the only real bugbear I've got. But I did come across a couple of bugs. The game, after 50 plus hours of the back compat playthrough that is on the channel, and you can go and watch that, I didn't once have a crash in that game. Plays perfectly. And yet, in 3.5 hours of playing this one, I think it's in part 2, so I've been playing it for what, 2.5 hours maybe. I was running toward a cave, and the whole game just bombed out and took me back to the Microsoft Xbox home screen. So that concerns me a little bit, that the game is slightly unstable in places. And I've also noticed that the music is extremely unreliable. Like, one of the great things about that game is its music, and running around the world listening to that music is also a beautiful experience. And I've noticed that there is a lot of time where the music doesn't kick in on running around in the world. I've also noticed that the battle music is nigh on non-existent. Like, there'll either be no music at all, or it will kick in for a bit and then it will stop. So there is still things and kinks that need worked out. I hope they don't just rest on the laurels and think, well, we've made the money we wanted to make now and we'll leave it at that. Because it does need some patching up. It's not the smoothest experience you would want from that game. And, you know, I'm not saying that it's not worth playing. It is. It's gorgeous and it looks fantastic. And when it's running well, it's running really well. And, you know, nothing's fundamentally broken. But I think at this point, my best experience of that game is still the back compat version. Because they took the original and they did their back compat magic on it. Still 720p, mind, I think. I mean, I could be wrong about that, actually. Back compat, some of them have been actually upgraded for Xbox One X. I mean, I should maybe have checked that out. But it looks gorgeous, plays so smoothly. Oh, the other thing was that the back compat version goes in and out of buildings like that. I mean, there's next to no loading screen. It's so quick. And yet, in this one, those loading screens have come back that were kind of there in the original game. And I'll forgive that because they've put the extra 1080p or 4K or whatever it is, and the 60 frames per second. They've put all the extra oomph into it. So more's going to load, of course it is. And I can forgive that if you've got the rest of it right. So, you know. Having said all of that, I'm absolutely loving playing it again. And I didn't think that I would, because that back compat playthrough that I was doing was not that long ago. And it was a lot of hours I put into that. I mean, it was like 50 odd episodes. So you're probably looking at about 60 hours or something. And, you know, I was kind of like, is it going to be too soon to be going through all of that again? And actually, I just felt comfortable straight away. So, you know, along with the other perks, apparently I read in an IGN article, I think it was, that they've kind of tweaked the maths on it for the loot pickups. So, because a lot of that original game, you were picking up stuff. I mean, just about everything you picked up was just pointless, because it was none of it was ever any better than what you had. And it was very, you know, so you were just getting a lot of generic nonsense that you were just selling to Nan or whoever and clocking up your coinage. Apparently, they have sorted out the maths behind, especially in the later part of the game, where you will get far better loot if you do a lot of searching around and finding stuff. So I'm looking forward to that and finding more gear. At the moment, I'm still wearing the gear that was in my it was kind of a gift in my chest at the beginning of the game, kind of a DLC type thing, or some key that I got. But that'll need to change soon. But it's a set of armor that's got perks on it. So I need to wait till the level of armor I'm picking up is, you know, pretty cool before I start dumping that armor. The other thing with the other problem I had with the original game was that the armor, like a lot of you had that kind of leather, and everything you picked up looked the same in that kind of leather. And then, you know, so there was not a huge amount of variety in the armor visuals, was one of my key gripes. The other was that it didn't look very metally. I mean, a lot of the armor, even the metal art, sorry, I mean, I know the leather won't, but the let's say the armor that's metal, the heavy armor, and I think they call it might. So you've got might and finesse and magics, whatever the other one's called, and the metal one doesn't look metally. It looks a little bit rubbery. So it looks a bit better in this one, you know. But these are small gripes with a fantastic game, you know. But yeah, anyway, so they tweaked the math system, so hopefully the pickups will be a lot better than they were. But in the main part, I've thoroughly enjoyed getting stuck back into it again. I know that everyone's that's been commenting on the game, that's playing the game, has actually been thoroughly enjoying it, and you know, a lot of those, I'm sure, will be PS4 players who haven't had the opportunity to play it. If they didn't play it last gen, they certainly weren't going to play it this gen until there was a remaster. Because if you've not got an Xbox One, you can't play the back compat version, and that's the only version that was there. So, anyway, I'm thoroughly enjoying it, and I absolutely love the way the world looks with that extra 1080p 4K, you know, kick to it. And it's just, if that tiny little bit of screen tearing that pitches up from time to time wasn't there, it'd be ideal for me. And, there's been a lot of grumbling about, oh, they just did the bare minimum and they're not put, yeah, well, hang on a minute, but nearly all remasters are the bare minimum, that there's not a huge amount of them that come out with, some fantastical reason for you to, there's not many remasters that I can think of off the top of my head that have something spectacular in them that wasn't in the original game. All they've done is just up the frame rates and up the graphical fidelity, and obviously you're getting all the DLCs and stuff in there as well. So what more do you want? Like, you can't redesign the entire game, so especially when you've bought that product over from somebody else. So fair dues if they're cracking on with the new one and just wanted a bit of a cash in on what they've paid for, then fine. Anyway, so I've done 3 episodes. I haven't recorded any more yet. The 3 episodes I've done are up on the channel, so you can go and watch those. If you want to see more Kingdoms of Amalur, then look in the playlists, and I think on the homepage as well, for the back compat playthrough that I did, because there's like 50 odd episodes right from the beginning all the way through, an uninterrupted gameplay, me chatting away. So that's there if you want to see just the back compat version and compare it. And yeah, I'm looking forward, actually. I will play some more. I've said in the playthrough, the new playthrough, that I don't think I'm going to play that much of it at the moment, because I'm actually keen to see how it plays on the Xbox Series X when I get my hands on that. And I certainly don't want to be playing a massive amount of it now and then having to play it again in November. So I think I might do another number of episodes, 5 to 10 in total, and I've done 3 already. I'll probably do 5 and see where I feel, and then that'll be enough for people to get a feel for how the game looks in a number of areas. And then come November, at some point after that, when I've got the Xbox Series X, I'll give it a whirl on there and see how it looks. And I suppose even then we could compare the back compat one against the remaster as well to see just how they do then. So not overly sure that extra power is going to fix the tearing, because I think that's more to do with the design of how they've designed it rather than the power. Because there shouldn't be any reason the Xbox Series X shouldn't be coping with that. But anyway, we shall see. But thoroughly enjoying it. I'm looking forward to playing a bit more of it. So, should we crack on to the big news, people? The big news. So, I'm going to get me notes out for this. So, we got... it's been... This whole next gen has been a complete farce so far as announcements go. Because just about... Well, in fact, everything has been leaked before we've ever heard about it. So, nothing's been a surprise. Nothing's been... yay, surprise, is something to get excited about all of a sudden. It's all been leaked first and then officially announced later. Obviously, the whole COVID-19 things means there's been no proper events and stuff. So it's all been a bit flat. And the two companies have just held off as long as they bloody can to tell us exactly when we can pre-order them and stuff. And PlayStation still haven't told us anything. So, but it was nonetheless, even though the Xbox Series S being an actual thing leaked properly before they announced that, then I'm going to apologise for the lighting again. There's nothing I can do about people. I could not have the screenshots, but I need to get a proper daylight light shining on me, and then it'll probably fix the issue. But anyway, you're probably better looking at the screenshots than me anyway. So yeah, so the whole I've lost my train of thought there now. But anyway, the whole thing has just been farcical. They've both been bouncing from each on and off of each other, waiting to see who was going to announce stuff first, and it was just, why? You know what I mean? I think Sony's worry was they didn't know what this Xbox Series S was going to be, so they didn't know what to do in that regard, because it was because they've officially announced there's a discless version of the PS5, and that's it. So there's not going to be a huge price differential between the standard and the digital edition, because a Blu-ray, they are the ones that own and make Blu-ray drives, so it probably costs them about $20 to put one in. So it's not a massive saving for them, which is why I felt like the digital edition, which by the way they've not given us any details on other than it looks the same as the other one without a disc. It could be that there's something different about it, they've just not told us. But I would have preferred them, rather than try to do a cheaper version, I would have preferred them to say, well, here's a diskless edition, but it's got 1.5 terabytes of space or 2 terabytes of space for your games instead. And that would have made some sort of sense to me, because people who download stuff, it takes them longer to get it. Takes them, they don't want to delete stuff more than someone who's got a disk does, because it takes so much longer to install it. So I would have preferred to have, a version that's got a bigger, same price, but with a bigger storage and no disk. So anyway, moving back to Xbox. So here we go. So they announced so we get the leak of the Xbox Series S and what it contains and its price. Certainly its price anyway. What it contains, I'm not 100% sure of, but I think we got all of that. But anyway, the next day, I think it was, Microsoft tweeted up, oh, well, it's time for us to make this official, and had a picture of it. And, I think it looks really smart, to be fair. I know it looks a bit like a speaker and stuff, but I think they've gone with a similar design to the Xbox One S and Xbox One X, to be fair, but just as a solid rectangular, square shape, rather than having the indented section. But they've put the big vent on top of it to just let the air get out, which is great. I'd rather have that than something that's going to overheat like the 360s did in the original 360s back in the day. So you've got to take, you're seeing a picture of it there now. You've got the nice big vent where the air's just going to get right out of there. And here's the beauties of it, right? So there was a number of days went by. So so they tweeted up. They said this is what it is, and this is the specs for it as well. And it's $299. Me, I wasn't expecting a price like that. Not for the power we're about to talk about. So, and then I think there was like a day or two, and then they eventually went, boom, here's the Xbox One X with the Xbox Series X. God, I'm never going to get this out of my head. Xbox Series X and Xbox Series S together. One of them's $299. Xbox Series X is $499. And, so there's a massive price difference. Now, it's going to be really interesting to see what happens here, because for me, I think the Xbox Series S might outsell the X, because your core gamers are going to want, certainly your Xbox gamers are going to want the power of the X. But when it comes to the nitty-gritties of it, the Series S is giving you a next-gen experience just with a couple of features tweaked down a bit. And for people that don't have $500 or whatever that's going to be in pounds, I didn't actually jot the poundage down, but I just jotted the dollars down. What is it, £450, £460, maybe something like that. For people that don't have that amount of money, then you're spending, £270 or something instead for the Series S. And I think that's fantastic. And basically what you're getting here is, and we'll talk about other payment options in a second, but you're getting no Blu-ray, right? So it's a digital system. So you get a no Blu-ray drive. So you're going to have to buy your games online. It's fully digital. The graphics are, rather than true 4K, they are upscaled to 1440p, right? Which is effectively what the PlayStation 4 Pro is doing at the minute, right? So graphically, and bear in mind that there's a huge amount of people that don't care about 4K and don't have 4K tellies. So, and even if you do have a 4K telly, you'll be hard stuck to find the difference between 1440p upscaled and without Digital Foundry showing you what the difference is, it's still going to look bloody gorgeous. And that is literally the only two things that have been scaled back. So it's really the graphics that have been pulled back and the lack of a Blu-ray player. But because they're still promising you the up to 120 frames per second, you're still getting the super fast SSD architecture and memory. So all of those benefits that come with next-gen gaming are still there. You're just getting slightly scaled back graphics and no Blu-ray drive. And they're doing all of that for $299 / 270 quid or whatever it is. That's absolutely fantastic. And, if you're going to combine that with Games Pass, for in this case, if you bought it outright and you have Games Pass at $10.99, Ultimate Game Pass for $10.99 a month, that's £10.99 a month. I think it's $15 or something, $15.99 or something in the United States. That is, and that, I mean, for people that are getting their kids into the gaming for the first time, or people that want to get their kids off of an old console or a new one, and don't want the hassle of having to buy. I mean, let's be honest. There's no huge games coming out anyway at launch, even for PlayStation. You know what I mean? They've not announced anything that would blow the world apart, have they? So if you want to get your kids or family into gaming, or moved into new gen gaming for $299 and $10.99 a month for this ridiculous amount of games. And here's another thing: they've now added EA Pass, EA, what is it called? I've forgotten the name of it now. The EA version of Games Pass, effectively. So any EA games, if you've signed up to that, you can get all the EA stuff on it. EA Access, there you go. So yeah, so they've added EA Access to Games Pass. So if you've got Games Pass Ultimate, you'll get access to EA Access, and that's an additional 60 games that aren't on Games Pass. So you're now getting another 60 games on top of the 100 games that Games Pass has already got. I mean, for $10.99 a month, it's insanity. That's an incredible amount of games. And, that for people that want to give their kids a cracking Christmas and a whole bunch of stuff to play, how much better is that than getting, an Xbox Series X or a PlayStation 5 with one or two games? When you've got a $299 console with this 160 games available for you to play of a whole bunch of different varieties, from AAA to indie to everything in between. I mean, I just think that's incredible. I think it's fantastic, and I think Microsoft have really carved out their own roadmap of what they're trying to do. They're not thinking about Sony anymore, so far as they know what their target is. They know how they're going to try and get people back into their, or keep people in their world, and also get new people into their ecosystem as well. And I think they're doing a cracking job. And I think that announcement, I think, was bob on. It was absolutely perfect for them at the minute. Sad that Halo couldn't be part of that. Of course it was. And if they could have said, and you'll get Halo to play on both of these at launch, that would have been fantastic. Of course it would. But that's not happening. That's not the world we're living in. It will be probably this time next year, or November 2021, when we see Halo. And that's fine. There's 160 games for people to get through on Games Pass and EA Access in between times. And new games will hit that as well through the year, because games drop off, new games come in. It's always getting freshened up, just like any other subscription service. And I think they've done an absolutely cracking job. Now, here's another thing. Right, so let's say they go, well, I've not really got $299 either. So you can also do it on a pay-up scheme, right? So for $25 a month, right? $25 a month, you can get the Xbox Series S with... I've actually written Xbox One S and Xbox One X down here. I'm never going to get that one out of my brain, people. The Xbox Series S for $25 a month includes Ultimate Game Pass and the EA Access that is also now as part of that Ultimate Games Pass. So for $25 a month, you can get a brand new console. This is for 2 years, over 2 years. So you're covered for 2 years with the paying up the console and 2 years of Ultimate Game Pass. You're sorted. For $25 a month, you're sorted. And I think that's absolutely brilliant and incredible. And I believe if you actually tot all that up, it comes to... if you it is. It's less. It's less for that if you'd actually bought one outright and paid for 2 years worth of Ultimate Game Pass. So, absolutely fantastic. And if you want to do that with the Xbox Series X, then it's $35 a month if you want the Uber one still, and obviously comes with the Games Pass Ultimate and the EA Access on top of that. So for $25 a month for the S, $35 a month for the X. I mean, that's fantastic. Absolutely brilliant for those people that just can't dish out that sort of money in a lump sum. I think it's fantastic. And I think that'll give a lot of children a very happy Christmas, in my opinion. Because, I mean, let's face it, the PlayStation is not... my personal opinion is the PlayStation 5 is not going to be any less than $499, which is what the X is. I think the PlayStation 5 will be either more than that, or it will be $499. And the discless version will probably be not much less. It'll probably be $450 or something like that, because I don't see how they make any more than $50 back on a Blu-ray drive. So unless there's something fundamentally different about the digital edition, other than the fact that there's no Blu-ray player in it, I don't think it's going to be. That's certainly not going to be what Microsoft have just offered. So I think Microsoft have done an absolutely outstanding job there. They've kept the core, the real hard gamers, the people that are wanting to spend the money to get the best possible experience out of the best possible hardware they can get their hands on. You've got them happy. And then you've got this whole new plethora of people that can come in and go, well, for $299, I can have that, and, you know, and for $10.99 a month, I can have like all of these games, or for $25 a month for 2 years, and I've got that mega console, and I mean, it's just great. I mean, I think they've blown it out of the park with that. I really, really do. Hat off to them. And in 2 years' time, when all of these exclusives start hitting that they've bought the studios from, I mean, you know, and they're not going to stop buying studios. You know, I think Microsoft are in a really strong position this time around. So, yeah, and so is Sony, of course they are. But I really think Microsoft are knocking it out of the park at the minute. I really do. Halo's a big blip. Of course it is. Everybody knows it is. But they've done the right thing. They've delayed it so they can make it what it needs to be. And that's that, you know. So, yeah, I'm uber stoked. And I was really, really chuffed with those announcements. I'm pretty sure that's it for those Xbox announcements. I don't miss anything. Well, yes, I did. I haven't talked about when you can actually buy it. So, the release date for the Xbox Series X and Series S is the 10th of November. So on the 10th of November, you'll be sitting there with one if you've bought one. You can pre-order them on the 22nd of September. So everybody just, you know, get your go to bed with your laptop, you know, already left on with the Amazon or Shop2 or wherever you're getting it from. Leave that web page open, the page wherever it is, and wake up and just like hit the button straight away. Pre-order, like probably I will be doing. So that's fantastic. So we know what's happening with Xbox now, and it's in Sony's court to find out what they're going to do and when they're going to release. It's going to be interesting to see what date they bring. There was a few people whispering they might do it in October, at the end of October, rather than wait till later in November. But considering the rumours about the lack of numbers of PS5s, I think, because a lot of us are going to struggle to get a PS5 the way that it sounds, it might be that they leave it till later in November so they can get more units ready. I don't know. But anyway, they're being very, very quiet yet again. So, yeah, super, super stoked for that now that we know I know I can pre-order an Xbox Series X on 22nd of November. 22nd of September. I'm very excited, people. I really am. I mean, it's only 2 months away that we get our hands on them, people. You know what I mean? Pretty much. So, well, we've got most of September, October, and then we're into November. Yeah, so it's 2 months, like, and then we've got them. Oh, well, as long as we can get our hands on them, of course. Anyway, moving swiftly on, and again, I'm not sure what time. I didn't actually look at what time it was before I started this, so I could have been rabbiting on for ages, or it might only have been 10 minutes. I can't, you know, we'll find out at the end, I guess. So, yeah, so there was, the Ubisoft event was yesterday, and I didn't watch it. I sort of looked at the key parts from it, and there was only two things that jumped out at me, one of which was Prince of Persia Sands of Time Remake. And it does look gorgeous. I have to say that I only have a very vague recollection of playing a Prince of Persia game. Which one it was, I can't for the life of me tell you. I can't even tell you what it was on. I mean, I can only assume it was PS2, because it certainly wasn't PS3. So I'm sure there was a number of Prince of Persia games, but I remember liking it, but I don't remember ever being that into it as such. But I was a very different gamer at that point in time. I mean, back in those days, it was all Final Fantasy, and then, you know, my football game every year. I'm going to apologise. I've already apologised. Sorry, I was going to apologise for the lighting again because it's gone dark, but I've already apologised, haven't I? I'm getting old, people. My memory's not what it was. So, yeah, they showed off like a cinematic, but it did show a lot of gameplay footage on it and stuff, and it did look really, really slick, really, really cool. The character's a great character. The concept's a great concept. Obviously, there was a movie made about the Sands of Time as well. So that whole concept makes sense to me. But in the game, it seems like you can, when you do a run or whatever, you can kind of rewind what you've done and then do something differently and stuff like that. And I don't have any recollection of doing any of that when I played a Prince of Persia game. So that's something I'm really looking forward to. I think that's a game that I would be absolutely getting my hands on day one. I think it's the sort of experience that I'd get a real kick out of, and an experience that I don't really have an experience of playing in this gen that I can remember. And I'm trying to think of a similar type of game. With... I suppose you could argue that something like Jedi Fallen Order is a similar ilk, because you're doing all that wall running and what have you, but battle system-wise it's going to be completely different, isn't it? It'd be interesting to see what the battling's like and stuff, but I've certainly not played anything that would remind me of that in this generation. So yeah, I'm super stoked for it anyway. It looked really, really good, the trailer. Music was great, acting sounded great, they've all gone all out on it. So yeah, I'm super stoked to see more of that. And did it give us a release date? Yes, it did. It's coming on January 21st, 2021. So yeah, January. I think a lot of companies have been quite clever with their game releases for new gen, because they certainly don't want to be launching them just because it's holiday season, because they know that they'll miss out. Like all those people that, like, how can you contend? Like, there's going to be so many people wanting that slot for the launch. You've got Cyberpunk and all these big titles coming out for the launch of the, Assassin's Creed Valhalla. All these big titles coming out, and they don't want to clash them all. And Ubisoft have got so much going on. They've got Watch Dogs coming again. Was that February or later? So they've got to space out their games, So it's understandable that although these games are probably ready, that they're not going to launch them all at the same time. That's assuming we don't get any delays, but yeah. So January 21st, 2021 for that one. Immortals Fenyx Rysing, which used to be called Immortals Gods and Monsters, was it? Or something like that. And they've changed the name of it since the last time we saw it. It's now called Immortals Fenyx Rysing, but it's Phoenix spelled Fenyx, I think it was. So not like the bird, but the character's called Phoenix, basically. So this game looks incredible, and a lot of people have got their hands on with it. But if you look, and you can see that's a screenshot of it there as well. It's got a very Zelda feel to it, and it's, from what they were saying in the videos I was watching, it's a completely open world, obviously different big areas, and it's set in Greek mythology, and there's only a few gods left and stuff, I think, from what they were saying, and here's one I didn't expect, actually. You do get to create Phoenix as you want them to. So there's character customization at the beginning, so you can make the character look and feel and gender and any of that. You can make them any look and feel that you want to make it your experience. Wasn't expecting that. I thought it was going to be, a fixed character like Link or whatever. So that's nice. So it does give that real RPG feel to it by doing that. They also talked about leveling up and leveling up your moves and stuff like that, so there has to be some sort of level up mechanic in there, so you do get the impression that it is a proper good RPG. And the battle mechanics look great from what they were showing off as well. So I hope that really comes to be something that it looks like it's going to be, which is just a bit of a spectacle. I really do. Because it looks like they've put a lot of work into this game. And the Greek mythology world is a fantastic playground to be playing a game in. It really is. So I'm really looking forward to seeing more of that. Well, it's out December, is it? Yeah, so I mean, that game is probably pretty much finished. So Immortals Fenyx Rysing is out on the 3rd of December this year, 2020. So they've also timed that pretty well, because if you've got the launch of yeah, so it's Ubisoft again. So, is it? Yeah, because it's the Ubisoft's event. Duh. So yeah, they've got so much going on, Ubisoft. They're sort of giving themselves a month between games, because I'm pretty sure that it's February for Watch Dogs, but I could be wrong. Someone could correct me. So they've got Assassin's Creed Valhalla launching at launch with the next-gen consoles in November. Then they've got Immortals Fenyx Rysing in December. Then they've got Prince of Persia Remake, January. Then they've got Watch Dogs, February. I mean, it's just insanity. That is a lineup, isn't it? I mean, I know I'm not quite into the Assassin's Creed games at the minute, but I know that they're big special games to people. I know that they're great games. It's just I'm in that zone at the minute. But, that's an incredible lineup. It really, really is. I mean, I've got to tip my hat to them for having that variety as well. I mean, that's just me picking the best of the bunch that I think is worth talking about. I mean, they've got loads of other stuff going on. Of course they have. So I'm super stoked to see. I mean, there's going to be so much cool stuff this coming gen. We're really getting a generational jump this time. We really are. The way that they've redesigned the architectures and, the SSD memory kicking in, the mega frames per second, the, proper 4Ks and all this sort of stuff. It's like we're getting a real jump in our experience this time around. I think, we're going to get some cracking titles over the next year or so. And, a year and a half from now, we're going to be seeing some spectacular stuff. We really, really are. So, finally, The Rock has come back. No, that's not what I was going to say. I made a note to myself about Black Myth Wukong. I'll probably put the footage up behind me again of this game so people can see what we're talking about. But the demo for this game basically broke the internet, a number of weeks back. I talked about it on a podcast a few weeks ago, and everyone was losing their shit about, oh my god, this looks incredible. And so, anyway, I'm not going to recap over all of that. If you want to hear me talk about it, go and look at I think it was the last one. I think it was the one I just did. So, Black Myth Wukong, let's see what... this is from IGN's visit to their studio to get a proper interview. And so, big shout out to IGN for this info. So, yeah, new details. Here we go. So, these were questions that they asked them. These were the answers that they got from the lead developers. Well, the lead designers. So, Black Myth Wukong has been in development for 2 years so far. The team is aiming to release the game no less than 3 years from now. So, we have to... We know that game's pretty far off, even though it looked incredible already. So, and that's fair enough. If 2 years development time is not a lot for a brand new project, because you've got to get your engine and everything sorted out and all your assets and all that malarkey before you can do all the fun stuff. So, after that 2 years, you're probably looking at 3 years of fun stuff and getting all that done. So that's fine. 3 years from now, we'll be looking at an Uber next gen version as well. Game Science, the studio, is aiming for more than 15 hours of playtime. Now that suggests to me that it's more of a Dark Souls ilk experience or Bloodborne experience than, let's say, an RPG where you're looting every chest you can find and, spending 80 hours in a world wandering about. It feels like it's going to be far more of a Bloodborne type experience from a gameplay point of view. Because those games, much as though they take me forever to finish through their toughness, people speedrun them in ridiculous amounts of time. So that says to me that that's the kind of experience we're going to get. And that, frankly, is what it looks like when you see it played. The team plans on including over 100 enemy types in the final game, including bosses. Black Myth Wukong is designed to be a gritty take on the journey to the west, featuring a more complex, dark version of the tale of the Sun Wukong, the Monkey King, escorting a monk with a sacred scroll. The trailer shows the 3 different monkeys playing. Players will have to wait to work out who is the real Wukong. The trailer area is called Black Wind Mountain, and it took 6 months to build. The playtime of Black Wind Mountain is planned to be 30 to 60 minutes on normal difficulty. It will be one of the game's earlier levels. 4 or 5 versions of Black Wind Mountain trailer were created before the demo was deemed ready for release. The demo is entirely playable and can be played using different approaches, fighting enemies instead of transforming into a golden cicada to avoid them. For instance, the player can use multiple different transformations during the wolf boss fight, more than the one shown in the trailer. The game currently features a test area. I should have put my glasses on. A test area nicknamed Toilet, funnily enough. That includes 4 other bosses not shown in the trailer. Black Myth Wukong is the first of 3 planned Black Myth games, each one drawing on different Chinese tales. Co-founder Feng Ji wants to create a Black Myth universe, not unlike the Marvel Cinematic Universe. And then there's a bunch of stuff about we'll read this out. So this is facts about the developer game science. 30 people are working on the game right now, with the developers' 3 co-founders all starting the company after working at Tencent. The game is being designed as a premium console game, something considered unusual and risky to the contemporary Chinese market. The team discussed outsourcing some of the development to companies that had worked with Naughty Dog and Sony Santa Monica, but have decided not to. Game Science is planning to hire 10 to 15 more people to allow the company to have 2 separate teams working on level design simultaneously. After the game's trailer went viral, the company saw 10,000 resumes sent to them, with some people coming to the office itself to ask for a job. The company plans to go quiet for a long time, fair enough, innit, if you've got 3 years dev to do, to work on the game, and won't show any more of the game until the developers believe Jesus, Steve, put your glasses on next time, son. Developers believe that what they'll show is better than the first trailer. So I just thought that was really interesting. So much facts that came out of that. I mean, really nice if other developers were that open about what they were doing with games and, you know, what was going on that early in development, to get people stoked and hyped up about it, rather than just going, we're not telling you what we're working on, and then boom, here's a game. I mean, to some extent, it's nice to get a surprise, but it is quite nice to be stoked for something, you know. And I guess a lot of it stems from so many games just get cancelled, you know, even after a couple of years of working on them. It's just natural, especially in big studios where they do a lot of different games. You can be working on a game for a year or 2 and it just gets binned because it's like, nah, it's not going to happen, you know. So I can kind of understand why they hold off so long as they do, but it's refreshing to see a company talking about and showing off their product that early on. So there you are. And that early on, not as a cinematic, but as a proper full-on gameplay demo, which is just awesome. So there you are. Where did we get to, people? What time is it? Well, I've got to have been speaking for about half an hour, because it was 5:30 when I looked at it, when I looked at the clock the last time, and that was about half an hour in, so I think we've hit about an hour. He says it's probably about like 40 minutes or something. Flagging's up, people. Go have another sip of this before I say goodbye. Well, there you are. That's all I had for you today. I think, well, I say all I had, it was enough, wasn't it, really? Unless you must be sick of my voice by now. So there you are. Let me know in the comments below, people, about any of the things I've been talking about. Let me know, especially let me know about what you think of the Xbox, the final Xbox reveal, and the dates, the times, the dates, the prices, the pay-up schemes, the design of the Series S. You know, let me know in the comments below about those. And if you're excited for any of the games that we've been talking about. I'm getting super stoked for... This is all I'm getting so stoked for new gen now. You know, I went through a real lull where it was just pissing me right off, because it was like, you know, they won't tell us anything. They won't tell us when we can get our pre-orders in. It felt like it just wasn't going to happen. But I'm starting to get really excited about it now. And I feel like the world needs it because of all the shit we've gone through this year, people. You know what I mean? Like, this year has been the shittiest of shitters that I can remember. You know, I'm an old man, people, and I've not seen a year as shitty as this. But yeah, it's just, you know, I think if we can get these consoles, and there's enough of them to go around, I think it will make the world a much happier and nicer place. You know, I mean, we're still going through this COVID nightmare, and people are still feeling trapped at home. Even when things open up, people are still not going to want to spend a lot of time out there. People are still being very cautious about how much time they spend out there. So, you know, if this is the perfect ointment and medicine that we need for having to stay at home longer or wanting to stay at home more than we might want or might normally, then, you know, brand new consoles, new gen of games, you know, hit us with as much as you can, because we want things to smile about. So there you are, people. It has been an honour and a privilege serving for you once again in this podcast of mine, and I shall see you all in the next one, folks. Take it easy. Bye.